I was supposed to marry Vanessa, the woman I believed to be my soulmate after being together for 4 years. She was known for loving pranks and being the center of attention, but I never imagined she would take it so far. I should have noticed the warning signs. Vanessa had a habit of turning serious moments into jokes. When I proposed, she pretended to reject me for 5 whole minutes before laughing and saying yes. When I got a promotion, instead of celebrating my hard work, she gave a speech about how I just got lucky. She always claimed it was just for fun, but always felt like it was at my expense. Despite that, I loved her and convinced myself that's just who she was. But doubt started creeping in when her friends hinted at some big surprise she had planned for the wedding. Whenever I asked for details, they just laughed and said, "You'll see." That set off alarm bells in my head, though I had no idea what she was up to. Trusting my instincts, I called my friend Mark, a lawyer, and asked him to help me create a bit of insurance. Together, we drafted a fake prenup filled with complicated legal language and a very specific clause. If either of us embarrassed the other publicly before signing the contract, all shared financial commitments would be nullified and the guilty party would have to apologize in public. It wasn't enforceable, but it looked official. I had it printed, signed, and ready to go just in case Vanessa crossed the line. The wedding day came and everything seemed perfect until the moment we were about to exchange vows. Vanessa suddenly grabbed the microphone from the officiant, grinned, and announced she had a surprise for me. She turned to the guests and dramatically invited them to welcome the real love of her life. To my shock, her ex Jason walked in with a smug grin. Vanessa beamed and told me that she couldn't say, "I do," without Jason's approval since they'd been talking a lot lately. Jason slapped me on the back and said, "Relax, man, it's just a joke." The bridesmaids laughed, treating it like the funniest thing ever. But Vanessa wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and showed a group chat where her bridesmaids had been betting on whether she'd go through with the wedding, fake cold feet, or whether I'd cry at the altar. The room fell silent. My mother looked like she was about to faint. My father's face turned beet red, and my best man muttered, "What the actual heck?" My hands started shaking, but Vanessa just stood there expecting me to laugh with her. She nudged me. "Come on, babe, lighten up." That's when I smiled, knowing I had the perfect response. The room was completely still. Vanessa was glowing like she had pulled off the prank of the century. Her bridesmaids still giggling, Jason standing next to me like he belonged there, and half the guests looking at me with pity. My mother was clutching my father's arm, nearly in tears, and my best man looked ready to punch someone. Vanessa was waiting for me to join in on the joke. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Wow, this is something else," I said, shaking my head. She thought I was playing along. Then I turned to the officiant and asked, "Do we have a table for signing the marriage license? I need to grab something." The officiant, looking just as horrified as everyone else, nodded and pointed to a small table off to the side. I calmly walked over, pulled a black folder from my bag, and held it up for everyone to see. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, I want to share a document with my dear fiancée." Vanessa tilted her head, confused. I unclipped the folder and pulled out the fake prenup. "Vanessa," I said calmly, "I had my lawyer draft this just as a precaution. You know, in case you ever decided to do something like this." I held up the contract so everyone could see the official-looking stamp at the bottom. Vanessa's face drained of color. "What the hell is that?" she asked, her smile fading. "Just a little clause," I replied, pretending to scan the pages. "It says that if either party embarrasses the other publicly before the marriage license is signed, then all joint financial obligations like the wedding, honeymoon, and shared assets are null and void." Gasps filled the room. Vanessa blinked rapidly. "Wait, that's not real." "Oh, it's very real," I said smoothly. "And it also says the guilty party must issue a public apology, right here, in front of everyone." Jason snorted quietly nearby, but no one else laughed. The prank had backfired spectacularly, and I was the one who had the last laugh. "Dude, you can't be serious. This has to be a joke, right?" I turned to him with a smirk and said, "Oh, I take pranks very, very seriously." Vanessa was starting to sweat. "Babe, this is crazy. You're not actually mad, are you?" I tilted my head. "Why would I be mad, Vanessa? This is hilarious." It's all part of the fun, right? So here's my prank. I'm canceling this entire wedding. Dead silence. Her smile vanished. Wait, what? She whispered. I snapped the folder shut. You had your joke. Now it's my turn. Wedding's off. The room erupted in whispers and gasps. The officiant awkwardly stepped back. Vanessa's face drained of color, then flushed bright red. You're joking, aren't you? She stammered. I turned to my best man. Ryan, would you do the honors? Ryan grinned and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen, and loud wedding music blasted through the speakers. But instead of the traditional march, it was Hit the Road, Jack. Some guests laughed. Others stared in disbelief. Vanessa looked like she was about to pass out. You're not serious, she hissed. You're not actually walking away. I grinned. Literally, I am. I turned to my parents. I think we're done here. My mom nodded, and my dad immediately began telling guests the wedding was over. Then I turned to Jason, who still had that smug smirk like this was all some joke. Hey, Jason, I said, you like stealing other people's fiancées, right? Well, congrats, she's all yours now. That wiped the smirk right off his face. Vanessa spun around, yelling at Jason to call this off, but he backed away. I think I'm going to head out. He was already walking down the aisle. Everyone was whispering now. The bridesmaids awkwardly stared at their drinks. Some guests were outright laughing. Vanessa looked like her whole world had collapsed. You can't just leave me like this, she screamed. I glanced back once more. Vanessa, you love attention so much. Well, congrats, you're getting it. And with that, I walked out of my own wedding, leaving her standing alone, humiliated, exactly where she deserved to be. Walking away was the best decision of my life. Outside, my best man followed, along with my parents and a handful of guests who wanted nothing to do with Vanessa after what she had pulled. Behind me, Vanessa was still screaming my name at the altar, but I didn't even look back. It didn't take long for fallout to start. My phone blew up with texts and missed calls from Vanessa. At first, she acted confused, like she couldn't understand why I left. Then came the anger. Furious messages about how I humiliated her, how she couldn't believe I ruined the wedding over something so minor. She insisted it was all a joke and that I had overreacted. When I ignored her, she changed tactics, threatening to tell everyone I abandoned her at the altar. That was rich, considering she turned our wedding into a circus. But she hadn't counted on one thing: receipts. My best man had screenshotted her bridesmaids group chat before we left. The same chat where they were betting on whether she'd go through with the wedding or fake cold feet. That alone crushed any attempt she made to twist the story. Word spread quickly. People who attended started sharing what really happened. Guests who were uncomfortable with her behavior finally got the full context and weren't afraid to talk. Within days, Vanessa's reputation was in ruins. Even her own parents called me apologizing for her. Apparently, they had warned her not to pull any stunts, but she ignored them. Even her friends, the ones who egged her on, started distancing themselves once they saw how badly she looked. It's one thing to joke around, but publicly humiliating your fiancé at your own wedding? No one wanted to be associated with that. Then the financial consequences kicked in. Vanessa demanded I pay her back for the wedding expenses. That was laughable, since I had covered nearly everything: the venue, the catering, even the honeymoon, which was booked under my name. One phone call later, I canceled it all. She was left with nothing. No wedding, no honeymoon, no sympathy. A week later, she showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. It was clear she finally realized how badly she'd messed up. She tried to apologize, saying she hadn't meant for things to spiral this far. She claimed she never thought I would actually leave. She begged me for a second chance, saying she still loved me and that we could fix things. I wasn't interested. I handed her an envelope and watched as she opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a mock wedding rehearsal invitation, set for the same venue where she humiliated me. The date was today, and the guest list was everyone who had witnessed her stunt. There was no groom's name, just one note: now we're even. She looked up, speechless. I didn't say a word. just shut the door and walked away. Vanessa wanted to turn our wedding into a joke. Well, she got what she wanted, except the punchline was her own life falling apart. She never recovered. The stunt went viral after someone shared clips. People shredded her online, calling her the bride who got left as a joke. She lost job opportunities, friends, and even family support. Her bridesmaids abandoned her to avoid being dragged down with her. Jason wanted nothing to do with her after the backlash and ghosted her completely. Meanwhile, I thrived. I took time to heal, focus on my career, and eventually met someone who truly respected me. Vanessa kept trying to reach out, emails, messages, even showing up places she thought I'd be, but I never responded. The last I heard, she was struggling financially and still single. She wanted to be a joke. Well, now she's the punchline.